Hi, welcome to the next video. In this video we're going to do the same sounds as we've done previously in Reaktor and Zebra, but this time we're going to use a fixed architecture synth, not one that's as modular like Reaktor and Zebra. And in this instance I've decided to use the Rob Papin synth Predator. By fixed architecture I mean the way this is set out. It's got 3 oscillators, it's got a filter, it's got a second filter, the envelopes, it's got the amp, and it's got the effects. There's no modular side to this synthesizer at all. You can't rewire or add extra sections. So with that in mind, let's move on. Now the first thing we need to do is select the default preset, which in this case puts everything back to their default positions, and in this case it's a sine wave, so the first thing we need to do is change that to a saw wave. That's what we've been working on, and I shall just zero everything. Okay, the first thing I always do, again, cut off up, sustain up on the amp so we can hear something. We can turn that up. Okay, and the first sound again is going to be a nice basic bass sound, so we work on the amp envelope first. You just draw in some notes. Okay, now that I've got some notes drawn in, we can just play that while we adapt the sound. Okay, so let's work on the amp envelope first. Let's bring the sustain down a bit, and we'll bring the cutoff down somewhat so we get a nice low sound on the filter. Okay, again we want it to be nice and punchy, but not too punchy that it's got a load of instant hard attack. Nice and soft for a nice soft bass. A little bit of decay to help with that, as you can hear there. Obviously we need to get rid of that click, so let's just get some release in there. Now we have a nice round sound. Now of course we need to use the filter envelope to manipulate the cutoff as previously shown, so we'll add some of the envelope. Now we'll start adding some of the cutoff envelope or the filter envelope. Okay, so that's nice and punchy at the moment, but perhaps a little bit too high. Let's increase the sustain a bit here. Maybe reduce that a little bit. Get some resonance in there to make it a bit more MIDI, I guess. Mid frequencies, that is. Okay, how does that sound? Still a bit. That's a bit better. Let's change this to mono because it's a bass sound. Doesn't always have to be in mono for bass, but in this case that's what we're after. That's a nice sound there. Okay, nice. Okay, so that's the bass sound in Predator. Again, by this time, because you've done it twice already, that should be coming really easy to you, or easier should I say. Without further ado, let's move on to the next sound, the pad sound. By now you should be starting to realise that for certain types of sounds there's certain parameters that you know you're going to need instantly. Now for instance a pad sound, we know it's a long fading in type sound and with a nice long release, so we know that we want a relatively long attack and a relatively long release, so we can do that straight away, and of course put the cutoff up so we can hear it, and bring the sustain up, and let's have a listen. Okay, so the first thing we need to look at is probably the filter. Get the kind of tone that you're looking for. resonance maybe. Yeah. Okay, and obviously we need to sort out the amp envelope properly, so we need to bring that attack. That's a bit better. Bring the decay time right up. Okay, that's quite nice. Now, deal with the filter envelope, so we'll add a little bit of filter envelope in there so that we can get the cut-off opening up as the attack portion comes in. As you can hear, that's really strange and fast at the moment, so we need to deal with that's what we're after. Get the decay time up as well. That's nice. Maybe some release. That's a bit better. Now get the sustain up. There we go. Turn up a bit. Too loud. Maybe bring the release up some more. It's maybe a bit too much. Nice basic pad sound. Can open up the filter a bit more if you like, maybe put the cutoff up a bit to get it going more into the higher frequencies with the filter cutoff opening up. So as you can see, it is very easy on these types of synths as well. When making music, depending on the kind of person you are, I guess, if you like building synths, that's great. But if you don't like building synths, you can use these types of synths that are very usable, very easy to use, and much quicker than building your own synth. And then, of course, once you've built the synth, then it's okay, you don't have to build it again. But building synths is a great way to learn about the architecture. Personally, when I'm making music nowadays, I tend not to use modular synths because it's just too slow and it can get in the way of your creativity, whereas these types of synths, you can just get in there straight in and start messing around straight away and get your sounds made. So that's our basic pad done. Let's move on to the next sound. Okay, the next sound we're going to do is our noise sweep. So again, put it to the default settings, zero everything out, cut off up, sustain up on the amp envelope and some volume on the amp envelope. Okay, so again, think about the characteristics of the sound that you're looking for. It's a noise sweep, so we need to change the oscillator to noise. We'll use white noise. So, but it's going to have a long attack, and depending on the type of thing you want it to do, it's either going to have a long release or no release and no sustain. So in this case, we'll make one with a long release this time. We also want it to fade in, so a long attack. Okay, so now that we've got the amp somewhere where we want it to be, we may then work on the envelope. So we want to use, again, the envelope is going to be the one that manipulates the cutoff. So we'll bring the cutoff down a bit so that it comes in from very deep. As you can just hear it there, but if we put the envelope up, and again a long attack, there you go. A nice long decay as well. And if we want it to be a long one, nice long release. Let's get some sustain in there. So again, we've got it coming in from real low and coming up to the high frequencies. I'll just turn it up for you. So again, depending on exactly what you want, that is a noise sweep. But if it's one of the ones that you want to die immediately, remove the release, remove the sustain, There you go. Interesting. Okay, get rid of the decay. Okay, as you can see now, we're doing this a lot quicker than we have in the past, because everything should be starting to make sense to you now. You should be understanding the relationships between these sounds and between these parameters and the actual noise that you're trying to create. It comes down to taste. You can do whatever you like to adapt these sounds. Of course, you can add effects, you can be more precise with your envelopes, the envelope amounts, you can add some resonance, you can add LFOs onto it, whatever you like. But for the purpose of these videos, we're just getting the basics and we're trying to get them drilled into your head so that you understand, okay, I want to make this type of sound. What's the characteristics of this type of sound, and how does the envelope equate to those characteristics? And by now you should be starting to realise that long attacks are almost creating a fade in type effect. Your decays help with the transition from the attack to sustain portion of the envelope. It also helps with making the note that little bit longer, as you can hear there. Straight up the attack, then the decay portion comes in. The sustain is exactly what it says. It's how long the note sustains after it's gone attack. Then the decay section comes down, then the note sustains when you keep your finger on the key. When you take your finger off the key on your keyboard, that's where the release portion comes in. So if there's no release, when you take your finger off the key, the sound finishes immediately. If there is a release, you take your finger off the key, it's still the note will still play like that. Okay, let's move on to the next sound. Okay, the final sound is our acid type sound. So by now you should be thinking, okay, what is the acid type sound? What does it entail? Okay, it entails very short acidy type squelchy sounds. Now what's going to allow us to do that? A saw wave, definitely. With regards to the amplitude envelope, what do we need on the amp envelope to help us with short punchy sounds? Well, a nice sustain for a start, and maybe some release to help the sound not die as quick. We're not looking for a release that's similar to the pad sound, but what we are looking for in this instance is the release will help. It will help get rid of the clicking sound. So if we put the cutoff up, bit of release in there, and it makes the sound nice and smooth. In this instance, you should also be thinking, okay, the full cutoff is not really what we want in this instance. It's more to do with the Q settings, or the resonance in this case. Now we get a high Q. Now that's the kind of thing we're looking for. But we want the filter envelope to play a lot on this sound. So we put the envelope amount up, and in this case we want some decay on the sound, which brings us the squelchy acidy type sound. Some sustain to help. And some release. Okay, it's not that squelchy, so we need to mess around a bit. Okay, it's a bit better. Let's turn it up a bit. Okay, we need to make it more squelchy, so we need to kind of mess around with the decay some more. Not squelchy, more acidy. Fill up. There we go. Okay, so that's our 4 sounds created. By now you should really have a good firm understanding of the basic building blocks of synthesizers, and you should also understand a little bit about the processes and the work involved in creating your own synth. So I hope these videos have helped, and in fact before I go I'll just make a little loop so you can hear what Predator sounds like in relation to the other synths. Okay, so here goes. Okay, so as you can see, even with those basic sounds, we've got a little groove going on there. And obviously there's so much more you can do with these, and that's the point. The point is getting the basics nailed and then being able to take those basics further, which is what the rest of the course is going to be about.